Hi all, so this is the first in a series of videos designed to help you through this first game project, this first real game project. So you'll notice I have um, a Dino Runner game that I'm building. The first file I've renamed to Dino Runner. You do that by saving the game. And I've made a setup and a draw method. Now my canvas is going to be 1000 by 500, which means it's 1000 long and 500 tall. I'm going to start by doing a background of, let's say, some sort of blue there. That's nice little sky. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle which represents the ground at position 0, 400, and I want it to be 1000 wide and 100 tall. And I'm going to fill it with sort of a brownish color. So maybe something like 20, 140, and 20. See what that looks like. Yeah, sort of brownish. If I want to make it darker, maybe an 80, 100, and 20. Okay, so that looks sort of like ground there. And we'll just comment here that this is the ground. And now let's start actually building our objects that are going to be in the game. So the first thing I have is I have a cactus class and a dino class. And the dino class is what I'm going to work on first. I've started populating this with, in essence, a template of what every dinosaur should have. And even though we have only one dinosaur, it's nice to have all of this information in one place. So I'm going to start by giving it an initial x value, an initial y value, a velocity of 0 to start, a gravity of 1 pointing down, a width of 70, and a height of 50. I also have two images set up to go, and I have to fill these up. So I'll say that dinosaur image is equal to load image. And in here I need to put the name of the file, so dino1.jpg. Now the problem here is that I haven't yet put this into a data folder, so I won't be able to have anything appear. So what I'll do is I'm going to put all of my image resources in that data folder. The way I do that is I go to Sketch, Show Sketch Folder, right-click, New Folder, I'll call it Data, and I will take my 3 image files, which are conveniently right here, and drag them into my data folder. Once I've done that, I should be able to access them. I'll also see my dinosaur image 2 is now load. And the reason I have 2 dino images is so that I can sort of have a simulation of running. It's not going to look very good, but there we are. Now, my dinosaur should also have a move method, which tells it how to move. And move is going to be based on sort of a couple different ideas. The first is that if the y value, so the first thing I want to do is I want to say that my y value should be increased by vy. But if my y value is greater than 400, the bottom of the screen, the ground, what should I do? Oh, and I should also increase my Vy by gravity. If my y value is greater than 400, otherwise, I want to do something else. So if my y value is greater than 400, I want to set my vy to be 0, and I want to set my y value to 400. Otherwise, I want to say that I want my vy value to be increased by my gravity value. And this is a way to make my my dinosaur move. And you'll notice that my y value starts at 400, so I'm not going to be increasing by gravity. But the idea is that when I jump, I will be able to have a some sort of motion going on. Now, another thing I want to do is that I want to show the dinosaur. So, one way to do this is, there are a couple ways to do this, but the first would be to just show an image of a dinosaur. And show it at position x, y with width and height as its dimensions. Another way to do this, and you can choose whether you want to do this or not, is to say something like if frame count divided by 3 gives me a remainder of 0, let's say divided by, or is divisible by 20. Frame count is divisible by 20. That means that every every 20 frames I'm going to draw one image. Let's say frame count greater than 20 is less than frame count divided by 60 is less than 10. Less than 30. So this way we say every maybe half second we'll switch the image. We'll say image dinosaur image 2 x, y, width, and height. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically saying, in some cases, I'm going to check my frame count. If that frame count is divisible by 60, meaning if it's if that's less, that value is less than 30, so if the remainder of a division is less than 30, then, which is roughly every half second, then I'll show one image. Otherwise, I'll show the other image. So this sort of alternates between images. Now, to start, this should be plenty. What I want to do is now I want to actually implement my dinosaur. So the way I do that is I say, well, it's a data type, so I want to make a dinosaur variable. We'll name our dinosaur Dina. And she'll be a new dino. And one of the ways that I get to deal with drawing this dinosaur over time is I get to say that I want Dina dot show, and I want to also move Dina. And these are two things that I've defined in the other file. You'll notice here's my show method, which says show my dinosaur with an alternating image. And here's one that says move the dinosaur given that it's in a certain location. So if I run this, we get to see that my dinosaur shifts position over time. It is of reasonable dimension and probably should be shifted up, or my ground should be shifted down. Also, my background should be white because this is not pretty. And maybe I'll shift the ground down, where the ground will be down to maybe a 450. And if I do this, I get my dinosaur looking like it's sort of running. I can always increase the scale, but I think this looks okay for now. And now there are a couple ways you can implement movement. One way you can do this is you can have something simple, like a key pressed. And key pressed will do something like this, where if the key code is, say, space, which is value 32, dina.vy we'll subtract maybe 10, let's say 20. So what this means is we'll set the vy to negative 20. And that means that if I run this again, and I press space, the dinosaur will jump up. Now, in order to have a decreased height, maybe you want to go to 10, which will decrease the height by a factor of 4. In fact, you can check your math and kinematics with that. But now I have a dinosaur that can jump a little bit. Maybe I want to increase that by 15. And the dinosaur now sort of floats. And we haven't had some sort of limit. If we wanted to say this and vy equals 0, dina.vy equals 0. So if I press the key and its speed is already 0, then I can keep going. So I can't double jump here. So that way, that's sort of one way you can prevent double jumping. There's another way. That one actually has a little bit of a bug. The reason is because at the apex you will have a vy of 0. So you can check the y position as well. And y is 400. So another way to do this would be to dina.vy equals 400. So if you run this, you'll notice that I can only jump once the dinosaur is on the ground. So that's one way of ensuring that you don't have this weird double jumping issue. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to have a cactus. Right now I have Dina, I want to have a cactus, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to write a cactus. Now, the way I'm going to implement the cactus, and I'll write this now so I don't have to worry about it later. Cactus C, and then I'll do the same thing here, where I say C equals new cactus. And then I will do something like this, c.move, c.show. And what is the whole point of a cactus? Well, the whole point of a cactus is to scroll to the side with a Vx value and to jump back to the end, and if it collides with the dinosaur, then the game is over. So what we can do here is we can say something like maybe it has width, maybe it has a height, we have a p image, and we'll call it cactus image, and then we make our constructor, which has the same name as our class. And as we write this, we'll say that x is equal to off the page, so maybe 1100. And maybe we'll start with our y value of 400. And maybe we'll start our vx value of, let's say 10. And our width should be maybe 40, and our height should be 50. Maybe our width is 30. Our height should be 50, about as tall as the dinosaur itself. Maybe a little smaller, maybe a 30 and a 20. This will look pretty small, but we can always increase. So let's double that, 40 and 60. So actually taller than our dinosaur. And then we'll say cactus image equals new, or equals load image. And I've named it cactus.jpg. And you can name it whatever you want. It should be in your data folder. Again, I'll show you that in my data folder I have cactus.jpg as an image. So this cactus should roll across the land. But the first thing I have to do is I have to draw it. So void show is going to look something like this. Very simple. Image, cactus, image, x, y, width, and height. And then our move method is going to be pretty simple as well, where we can do something like x, vx should be negative 10 here. X plus equals vx. And we're going to have something that says if the x value is less than the page, meaning if I go off the page, if I go off the negative 40, so if I'm beyond the page, I want to set the x value to be 1100 again, so that it appears eventually on the edge. So that way it jumps off the page, jumps back over, runs off the page, jumps back over. So right now, if I were to just run this, we should get something that moves. Great, now we have this cactus and it's sort of running around across the screen, and obviously we have to deal with some of this visual issue where my height is too large, so maybe I'll move that to 30. But we can see that if I run this, now it's running across the land, I can jump over it, but there's no consequence if I get hit. It just sort of runs through me. So Dino Runner, dinosaurs are running, we're running really fast, the cactus is moving off the page, but my jumping is sufficient. So let's see what happens to make it so that my dinosaur can get creamed by this cactus. So let's look at that. What I'll say is that I'll have another method called void collide. And we'll see with just, this will be pretty simple with one cactus. We'll say if dino.x plus the width is equal to cactus, or c.x, and that's really all we have to look for, or is greater than c.x, or plus dino.width, is greater than c.x, and dino.x plus dino.width is less than c.x plus c.width. That should really be all we need here. And we'll need another thing in here that says, in essence, something similar for the y value. Dino.y plus height is less than, or is, so if the y value plus the height is less than the cactus.y value, then you know that they're sort of in the same place. If it's above the cactus y value, then you know you've jumped over it. So the guarantee is that if the bottom corner of the dinosaur is within the cactus range, then you have a collision. If that happens, what do we say? We say the game is over. So one thing we might say is, maybe we'll return, we'll change this to Boolean, we'll say return true. So in return false. And what this means is that I can say if collide is false, meaning if there has been no collision, I want to draw everything. And otherwise, what do I want to do? I want to do maybe some text. Fill with white. Do a text size of 50. Do a text of you lose. And do something like position 50, maybe width over 2, minus 20, minus 40, height over 2, minus 25. So something like this where if I run, obviously this is, there we go, we get some sort of freeze here where I get you lose. So it looks like my conditions are off a little bit. So if I'm greater than that edge and less than that, let's change that to equals. And let's try again. So we get some situation where we get you lose. And in that case, you know, there are a couple bugs here, but ultimately this is sort of the idea. If you want to make it easier, you can just have the cactus be pretty small and see if it's within the box of the dinosaur, which you can do with this sort of similar comparison. Oh, oops, that's the issue. Is greater than or equal to cy. Okay, so if we run this again, finally, this should give us an issue where it runs into us and we lose. But if we run through and we jump, it hit us. Again, this is a hard game. And you can give it a score every time you jump. Or for every amount of time that they're not in collision. And here we go. There you go. Simple Dino Runner. You can make it more complex by adding another cactus. Say it like this. C2, and then I can do C2.move, C2.show, and to make it a little more, to make it so they're sort of different, I'd say c2.x should start at maybe 1500 instead, so that it's always going to be offset by the same amount. And instead of this, I can say, anyway, the C2 there. So I check C2 as well as C1. And then I can run this, and I can see that suddenly the game becomes a little more complicated, and I lose either way, no matter which cactus I hit. This second thing that I did is the real value of having a cactus up here. All the variables are built in. It behaves just the same way. I can change a value, maybe the x value to start of that cactus, but other than that, I can do something very similar. There are better ways to handle collision. As you can see, this one's a little finicky, but I really encourage you to try it out, play around with it, see if you can come up with a better way. The best way would involve probably something inside one of these objects. So play around, make birds, make them fly around, make them attack, make the dinosaur fall into pits of water, or whatever you'd like. Have a great day.